All right, guys, right where I left you, let's get into part 2 of the disassembly and assembly video. Basically, I disassembled it all in the first video. We're reassembling it now, and just because it's so involved of a process and I was talking too much about other stuff, I got a bit long, so I wanted to break it into a couple videos. So there's going to be 2 for the assembly disassembly. There'll be another one that just talks about the gun, including like I'll unbox it and show everything it came with. And I'll do a shooting video as well, probably a first-person style if I can manage that. Pretty cool in the backyard with the semi-auto 50 cal. But I digress. Let's put this thing together. And again, just real quick disclaimer: this thing is legal to own in Canada with a possession and acquisition license, which I have. Thanks, guys. Let's go. So, bolt. We're gonna put this guy back together into the carrier. First thing you're gonna do is grab this coil, get it on there, and get it linked into this lug, or this little retaining tab. And that's going to go into this gun, or into the, the carrier, to slide it straight up, but you have to make sure that you you hook it into this corresponding tab in here. You know what, if you've gotten this far, I'm not going to bore you with trying to show that. If you've gotten this far, you've seen my other video, you can see it at the end of there. So just get this all the way up, make sure you have this like rotated all the way back as far as you can, just to make sure that that thing engages. Yeah, and this is going to want to catch this lip here, so just push this release thing up, push it all the way up, keep pressure on it, and it's gonna, so it's definitely engaged that lug inside, because it's maintaining pressure. Now just spin it over until this recess here gets caught underneath this clip. You can use this to help you charging it. This is kind of the most finicky part of the process. There we go, so that's engaged now, but keep in mind, the spring that's keeping this engaged isn't necessarily sucking it up. So if you tapped on this would separate. So really quickly, we want to get this locking tab on here. This is the back half of it, and this is where kind of everything engages. Should be able to just tap this all the way down. It's a tight fit. Yeah, the tolerances on this thing are pretty darn tight. That's on, great. Now we'll toss our firing pin spring down the hole. Firing pin, which is huge. That goes down there, just fits right in. Again, you want to make sure all these parts are oriented the same way they went on, because they're not bi-directional. So in this one, the thick side goes down, the thinner side, or the narrower side goes up. Thread this on. This is basically functions as your firing pin retainer. Come on. Let's go here. I'm doing something off here. There we go. If you hold your firing pin down, you'll be able to spin it all the way on more easily. And you see there's a bit of a recess in there, and there's this little mark. That's for what essentially amounts to your firing pin retaining spring, which is this guy. That goes in there. So you need to, now that you're putting it back together, you need to come through this side, so you need to hook this through this little hole, which is not always the most easy thing to do. Everything's slippery. There we go, got it through. So it's kind of like threading the needle. Just get it through that curve, get it so that this bent end is back in, and then you just flip this around, and it clips right in along that recess there. And that's it. That prevents this from backing off any further than just in that little range, which is fine. Now this is already locked up, which is good. You could release the tension, but you need to have the bolt locked open like this anyway, so that the lugs can all mate into the barrel extension, and then it'll close automatically once this bottoms out somewhere. Like, see, this is riding this rail. Once this bottoms out, this pushes down, releases it, and that locks the action together. So we'll set this aside for now. Now we'll take the upper. Okay, the upper, we're going to slide the barrel in the back. Again, the barrel has to go on this steel channel rails, or they're steel rails rather, not channel. And these 2 lugs go in there. So this whole thing just slides in. You just have to mate it up once it gets to the bottom here. Everything is a little, likes to bind because it's just so long. It helps if you take pressure off of this with your front iron. There, you got it. See, I'm getting it mated in here. Some difficulty. Easy to do when it was on the ground here. There we go. Cool. So let's slide that all the way up. That's fine. Now we're going to grab our barrel spring. So that just slides down. That's bidirectional. That can just go all the way on. Okay, now the tricky part is getting this all the way up. Just to bunch up on this. Everywhere it can, it likes to grab. So just get that up as much as you can and hold it there. Be sure while you're doing this all to have this piece handy. And this piece, I believe, is oriented like this. Goes on, past there. Just gonna capture it with this. And it's like a tri-lug adapter, so it just has to go on. And now I think I did this backwards. I'm pretty sure I did. Not oriented that way. I should have been able to tell that. I believe it's oriented this way. Okay, this again. Okay. Almost back on there. Has to go through over the locking lugs and then come on, there we go. All right. Then a quarter turn. Comes back, self-locks. Whew. Oh, it's a bit of a bear to do. Okay, so that's it for the, oh, sorry. We've also got to throw the brake back on. Get this ahead a bit. Again, it's a lefty-tighty. Throw it on. That should be, it'll catch if this turns at all. But it should basically, mine was oriented so that it was nice and straight with the action. So you can adjust the brake if it does not, if it's bottoming out early. But these are all come set from the factory, so they should be good. Then you just spin this again, until it's flush. That means it's locked in. Cool. Now you're done with the front. Spin it around again. And set her down. Okay, now we're gonna toss in the bolt carrier. So here we go. You can see your barrel here. You can see your lugs. Flashlight handy? Yeah, kind of. Okay, let's make it a little easier. There, you can see your lugs in there. The carrier has to ride in this little point right there. It's a little tricky to get in because this guy likes to prevent you from doing that. So you kind of have to get this depressed while you're putting it in there. And again, that's why I took the lower off. You don't need to take the lower off, but it just makes this whole portion easier. So again, you're getting these lugs to line up with the same rail the barrel does. And kind of just coax this up to this point. And then you need something small, like an Allen key, but be careful so you don't scratch stuff, just to depress that. And then it'll go in with a bit of coaxing. And it's nice just to have a bit of a mount to help it go through there. Once it's past this starting area, it seems to run quite well. So then this guy goes in, and you'll notice as soon as this makes full contact, again, normally it's under spring pressure and it slams forward and then it locks right away. It's kind of harder to do just by hand. But as you press this in, you will notice that as soon as this gets all fully engaged, that release will be tripped. This will slide down, thus locking the action. Probably one more. There we go. So that's it. That's locked together. Now we'll toss our lower back on, our trigger group. Okay. It was a very tight fit. So, that on there. Okay. And the pin is very easy to reinstall because you can keep the orientation consistent as long as this is oriented appropriately. You can should basically just tap right in. Once this is lined up, rather. I'll reattach the back first here, which again, you want it hinged fully up, and then you should be able to re-engage this screw, which I always seem to have a little bit of trouble with. Something is not quite lining up. There we go. No, it's still not lining up quite great. Probably should do this first. There we go. Found that. Tap it in. Go a little past flush because it's down there. And you can rotate this guy back over. And you can snug it up again so it won't rotate out on you. It's good. And then finally, get this pin back in. There we go. This has to be flush up here. Rotate this pin in. Get your recoil spring through. Actually, I'll try to slide on this too. This is your, there we go. That's the way this little recess looks here. So this just pops in the big hole. And again, this needs to make sure, if you don't get it right, it needs to make sure that this is actually, in fact, going into your carrier there. And then you just push this all the way in, and it'll come back out and it'll gauge inside that little notch. So it's retained. All right, guys, that's it. Thank you so much. Please check out the overview and the other parts of the disassembly. And hopefully a shooting video. Cool, guys. Cheers.